Hello everybody, my name is Elliott and welcome back to Advective Weather. Today we're going to be taking a look at the potentially dangerous winter storm that is set to impact much of the eastern United States over the next 2 days. So basically widespread impacts are expected and a large array of threats is possible, including severe weather, flooding rainfall, as well as some snow impacts depending on where you are. Severe weather impacts do have the potential to be high-end across the deep south today, as well as into the southeast tomorrow. So as you can see, the SPC has issued an enhanced risk, which is the third of the 5 categories that they use, and today's main threat is centered basically over the Gulf Coast, extending from Galveston Bay all the way east through the Florida Panhandle and a little bit inland from there. The main threats that are driving this enhanced risk are severe tornadoes as well as some straight-line winds, and there is a potential for significant EF2 plus tornadoes and significant 65 plus knot straight-line wind gusts in the hatch regions that I'm about to show you today. So this is the tornado threat. As you can see, basically the entire enhanced risk is also under the hatch risk for tornadoes, and the hatch risk for straight-line winds is basically focused on the eastern part of that enhanced risk. So tomorrow we're also going to be having an enhanced risk, although this is shifted a bit further to the east, and much of the southern eastern seaboard is going to be under the gun for tomorrow. Like today, it's going to be tornadoes and straight-line winds that are driving this threat, and also like today, there's still going to be the potential for some significant tornadoes and wind gusts. So basically, the tornado distribution is going to be pretty bimodal, with one area of hatched risk being the eastern part of the Carolinas, and the other being the Panhandle extending into southeastern Alabama, as well as southwestern Georgia. So the straight line wind threat is going to be pretty widespread, as you can see. Basically, the entire southeastern seaboard, as well as the Florida Panhandle, is under the threat for some potentially destructive hurricane-force wind gusts tomorrow. So we also have an excessive rainfall outlook being the moderate risk today, which is the third of the 4 categories that they use, and that's going to be centered in southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi today. Tomorrow, it's going to shift to a small area in the Appalachians, as well as a larger swath extending from northeastern Virginia all the way through Pennsylvania to southern New England. And moderate risk basically means that there's at least a 40% chance that the rainfall does exceed flash flood guidance. Looking at the weather models, as you can see, there is a low that is forming and becoming more organized on the HRRR. Basically, through the afternoon, it starts to sort of form that frontal band, as you can see off to the east. Basically, it'll form overnight, although the severe threat in the south today doesn't really show much organization on the HRRR. Although it is important to note that north of the low, we are going to see a pretty significant amount of snowfall, with pretty significant area of snow being present pretty much all the way through the run on the northern side of the track. And the NAM does show a little bit more of a linear mode for the severe threat this evening. As you can see, it sort of congeals a little bit earlier and basically almost forms a pretty steadfast line all the way from the mid-Atlantic all the way through Florida, which is pretty impressive for this time of year. And as you can see, similarly to the HRRR, it does have a large area of snow north of the low's track. And the snow is going to be pretty significant for the Midwest. So looking at the QPF, which is basically the total precipitation, rain, and snow that's going to be falling, the HRRR does project a large swath of 2+ inches to be present over basically much of the eastern United States at this point, extending all the way from Louisiana all the way through New England, which is pretty impressive. And some isolated totals of 4+ inches are possible in some areas. And the NAM does show the highest totals being a little bit further west, maybe somewhat inland over some parts of the Appalachians. Although there is still going to likely be some widespread 2+ inch precipitation totals with this system. And looking at the snowfall, basically a good chunk of the western part of the Midwest is going to see some pretty significant snowfall. A foot or more is possible in parts of northeastern Kansas, in extending all the way to Lake Michigan, and this is for the NAM projection. HER is showing a similar thing, basically a foot of snow or more is possible all the way from northeastern Kansas through Lake Michigan, as well as some moderate to heavy snow in northern New England. So, when preparing for the system, when thunder roars go indoors, this is for the south, lightning can be potentially deadly and can strike well ahead of a storm. And when you encounter a flooded roadway, turn around and don't drown. Vehicles can get swept away from a few inches of flooding water. And for our folks in the Midwest, do take extra precautions when traveling during winter weather. It's probably advisable that you don't travel at all, and limit travel to emergencies. Stock up on supplies as early as you can ahead of the storm. And if you do have to travel in the storm, do drive slowly, especially on unplowed roads, and do keep a blanket in your car if you do need to travel in case you get stuck. Thank you very much for watching. We have a Discord server that you can join, and we would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Have a great day and stay safe.